Hi everyone, welcome to the third episode of Mini Clinics with Mitch. My name is Mitch Braley. I'm a member of Racquetball Canada's National Development Team, and I'm coming to you from my basement on behalf of Racquetball Canada. Last week we talked about footwork and how proper footwork is going to help improve your racquetball game. This week we're going to be discussing something that's closely related, and that is speed, agility, and quickness. And those three terms are often used interchangeably, not just in racquetball, but in all sports. But there are differences between the three, which we're going to look at, but we're also going to examine how they're related and ultimately how it can help improve your racquetball game by allowing you to retrieve more balls, react to your opponent's shots more effectively, and be able to hit more quality shots more often during your matches and your games. So let's start with the difference between the three. Making it as simple as possible and looking at speed first, it's essentially how fast a person can get from point A to point B. So if you're on the court, for instance, it'd be how long does it take you to get from the back wall to the front wall if you're sprinting? How fast can you do it? It's very linear and very easy to think about. Agility is your ability to accelerate, decelerate, and change direction as fast as possible. So if you think about being in center court, having to burst in order to go to an opponent's shot, you get there, you have to decelerate in order to stop, hit it, change direction, and then accelerate again to get back to center court. In racquetball, almost every rally has some form of acceleration or deceleration, so agility is super important. And lastly, quickness, which can often be likened to reflex time or reaction time. And basically, it's how quickly you can react and respond to something external happening to you. So if you can look at your opponent's drive serve, see the angle, the speed that it's coming in at, how quickly can you react to it to get into proper position in order to hit a really good return. So a lot of times I think when we talk about a player being fast, it's because they have probably at least 2 out of 3 of these, if not all 3, in a really healthy balance. But there are differences like we just talked about, and we're going to look at how we can train all 3 of them a little bit differently through some drills that you can do at home. So I touched on it briefly, but what we really care about is how can the 3 of these improve your racquetball game? Well, starting with agility, if you look at racquetball, it's a game of constant direction change in probably, I'd say, if not 100%, 99% of rallies. The faster you can accelerate to the ball is great, but a lot of people don't talk about being able to decelerate and change direction too. If you have 2 players where all other aspects of their game is equal, which again isn't likely, but for the sake of making my point, everything else is equal, but one can stop, decelerate, and change direction quicker, that's going to give them an advantage over somebody who's a little bit slower in it. When it comes to quickness, it's obvious as well, you have to react to your opponent's shots and their serves. And even at the lower levels of play, the novice play or beginners, the ball's still traveling upwards of probably 60, 70, 80 miles an hour, which means that even having a split-second quicker reaction time to start moving and getting into position to hit the ball is going to be hugely advantageous for your game. And then speed. The racquetball court is 800 square feet. It's 40 feet by 20 feet, and that's a lot of ground to cover. So the faster that you can move between the different points throughout a rally is going to help you retrieve more balls and become a better racquetball player. So the way I've got this structured is we are going to look at some drills for each one of those 3 components. So we're going to start with agility, look at some drills for that, then we're going to move on to quickness, and then we're going to move on to speed. But first and foremost, let's get started with agility. So the first thing we're going to look at for agility is something a lot of people are familiar with already. It's commonplace in a lot of sports, football in particular, and that is going to be some ladder drills. And first and foremost, they're a great way to strengthen your legs and your calves and your feet. They can also be a terrific way to work your cardio if you want it to. There's tons of different exercises you can do with them. I'm going to show you a handful here in the video. I'm not going to dive too much into detail about how to do them. It's pretty self-explanatory, and again, if you look on YouTube or online, you'll find a ton of different ideas there as well. But if you don't have a ladder, you can pick one up on places like Amazon or the department store or sporting goods store relatively cheap. But again, if you do have a roll of tape, you can easily stick down the lines in the ground in order to make one up for yourself, and that'll do a perfect job for you too. And you're also going to see me using some hurdles, some mini hurdles. I like to use those as well. It just changes things up. It's a little bit tougher for some of the exercises. So if you have a pair of those, you can combine them or use them in place of the ladder. But whatever you feel is best for you.
Jamendo.com. jamendo.com.
And the next thing we're going to look at is something called the Footwork Square. This was introduced to me last year by my good friend and retired national team member Tim Landrieu. But as you can see, it's super compact, so it's a really great option if you don't have room for a full-on footwork ladder. I've just taped a 4 square grid onto the ground using some painter's tape, but it's really small. You can do a ton of different activities with them and exercises. I'm just going to do a few in the video here for you to see that I'll talk over. But again, look on YouTube, look online, you can find all sorts of different ideas and creative options that you can accomplish with this. So really good if you're limited for space and don't have any equipment at all. I really enjoy this, and I think it's a great way to mix up your training even if you do have the ladder as well. So that's it for agility. Next up, we're going to look at quickness. And I do want to say that it was almost impossible for me, at least, to do a video on agility, quickness, speed without somehow talking about Bruce Lee. So a really fun story about him is when he was shooting movies during his film career, a lot of the movements he was doing were actually so fast that at the time they couldn't be picked up by the cameras they were using. So he had to actually physically slow himself down when they were shooting in order for the cameras to pick up on whatever he was doing. And when you went back and watched it, you could track his movements. And that could be an urban legend, in which case I am a giant liar. But in any case, I think that's a really cool story. And he's somebody I think really perpetuates and embodies the ideas of speed and quickness and agility. So the first thing we're going to look at is playing around with something that's often referred to as a crazy ball. Like I have right here, it's just a hard rubber with a bunch of bumps on it. So when you throw it, it bounces around crazy, unpredictably, and you're trying to ideally catch it as quickly as you can. So I apologize for the poor camera angle here. This was the only room in my house that I was able to throw the ball against the wall in, and it was tough to get a camera angle that showed the wall as well, but that's what I am throwing it against here. So the ball is basically jumping off at all sorts of angles, and my goal is to try and catch it as quickly as I can. I do try and use my playing hand, my racket hand, so I'm right-handed, so I'm trying to catch with my right hand all the time, but it is good to also switch up and make sure that you have good balance within your body, so playing with your offhand too is not a bad idea as well. So something you can do for 3 minutes or 5 minutes or 50 reps or whatever you feel, but it's a pretty darn fun way to increase your reaction time and your quickness. So next up, and apologies for the camera angle again, just a really confined space, so tough to get everything in the picture, but I think you can get the gist of what I'm doing. I've Googled a random timer on my computer here, as you can see, but I'm sure there's phone apps for it too, but basically at a bunch of random intervals, it's gonna beep and buzz and go off and make a sound, and I'm gonna hit the ground and then try and get up as quickly as possible into a good athletic stance and continue to do that over and over and over again. And it doesn't necessarily need to be that movement of getting down and then getting back up again. It could be something probably and ideally athletic and related to racquetball. So it could be, the crossover drill that we looked at last week for some of the footwork stuff. But again, it's just reacting to a timer or a buzzer or something external and building your reaction time and your quickness that way. So we've looked at agility and we've looked at quickness, and the last item we're going to discuss is speed. And this one can be a little bit more difficult to work on at home simply because we talked about how speed is how fast you get from point A to point B. And the simplest way to improve that would be designating a point A and designating a point B and then seeing how fast you can get between them and trying to improve that, which can be difficult to do inside because it is nice to have a bit of distance between them. And a lot of people like to use weighted sleds that they're pushing or pulling or even have a parachute behind them. But again, the point of this video series is minimal equipment that you can do at home. So we're not going to talk about anything that involves that type of thing. So fortunately, it is spring at the time of making this video. Hopefully the weather for you is starting to turn around and can permit you being outside, because I am outside for a few of the drills we're looking at. But that being said, I do have one you can do indoors. And it is worth noting that improving your leg strength and your core strength, we're going to look at exercises for those in later videos, is also going to help improve your speed as well, even though it might be a little bit more indirect. And as well, agility, quickness, and speed are all related. So the agility drills we looked at are not strictly just for agility. They are going to improve your quickness and your speed too. The same applies for quickness and the same applies for speed. So even if you don't have a long distance that you can run to do some of these drills, don't worry. You can still help improve your speed and become an overall faster player. And a couple things that I think are worth reiterating, just because an exercise is meant to improve your agility, for instance, doesn't mean that it's going to only help agility and have no impact on your quickness or your speed. They're all very strongly connected. So even if you aren't able to do something like get a ladder laid down on the ground, if you can do some of the exercises that we've talked about before or are coming up, then it'll still be really beneficial for you. Sprints are great for speed, but it does typically require you to be outdoors just to have a little bit more space to work with in a longer distance. And strong legs and a strong core are also hugely important. So we'll look at some exercises to help strengthen those in some later videos, but I just wanted to make the note that that's also a really terrific way to strengthen all three of those areas for you. So if the change in hairstyle wasn't obvious enough, then me saying a few moments ago that I was going to be outside for some of the sprinting drills is probably a giveaway, but I didn't shoot all parts of this video at the same time. So when I wanted to get out and do all the sprinting drills outside this past week, we've had quite a bit of snow in Calgary, and snow scares me. I don't like it one bit. I don't like the cold, and I wasn't able to get out and do them safely. So I promise I will get those done, because I do have some ideas that I think are fairly unique and aren't necessarily readily available online or on YouTube. So I will get those filmed and then include them with a later video in the future here. But if you do find something online on YouTube that you want to try out, probably going to be outside, then I encourage you to look for hazards such as gopher holes, rocks, sticks, just to avoid tripping or getting injured up. But the general idea, at least for me, is taking a set distance, taking a baseline measurement of how quickly you can run it, and then keep trying to improve on it and get faster and faster each time. But again, we'll get into more detail in a later video when spring actually rolls around into Calgary here. But one thing that you can do inside, I do forget the exact name for these. I came across them some time ago online when I was trying to find substitutes for running outside because it was the middle of winter, but I call them wall sprints here. So basically I have my hands up on my head pressed against the wall, and I'm just going to be raising my knees as quickly as I can and high as I can, and then stepping very quickly, kind of simulating a sprinting motion. If you want to make it more challenging, you can put a resistance band around your legs just to make it a little bit more difficult, but it's really great for cardio and really good for building leg strength as well, and just increases the force that you're exerting on the ground whenever you're running. So hopefully, besides the lack of sprinting videos and some of the poor camera angles, you're able to take away a few things from this today. Just to briefly recap what we've touched on is that speed, agility, and quickness are all different things, but they're all very closely related as well. And improving all of them is going to help you retrieve more balls, but also help you hit more quality shots on a regular basis during your games. I haven't talked about it much at all either in my other videos, but always be sure to properly warm up before any type of exercise, just to help you prevent injury and also get the most out of whatever you're doing. And having strong legs and a strong core also helps you improve all three areas. We're going to look at some exercises to strengthen those in some later videos as well down the road. But most importantly is be safe and listen to your body. So if something hurts or doesn't feel right, maybe stop doing it for now. Have a look at your technique. Either film yourself, have someone look for you, and if it needs to be corrected, then correct it. But if it just doesn't seem like it's going to work for you for whatever reason, then don't push yourself. It's not worth getting hurt and getting injured for any amount of time. But that's all I have for today. Thanks so much for watching. My name is Mitch Braley with Racquetball Canada. We'll talk to you next week. Take care and stay safe.